Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mel and I'm a knitter and crafter living on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland. Welcome back, like I said, and if you're new here then you are very welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is kind of an impromptu recording today. I hadn't planned on it, or rather I didn't think I would get a chance to record this week, but I am heading off island in a couple of days time, so I wasn't sure if I'd have time to record. Fortunately I managed to squeeze it in. So I will be heading south to do some family visiting and also to visit the Scottish Yarn Festival in Perth at the end of the month, which for me is in 2 weeks time. Whenever you're watching this, that will depend, but it's on the 30th and 31st. So if you're going to be at the Yarn Festival, I will be there on the Saturday, so feel free to come say hi. I will only be there for the Saturday this year. It's all I could kind of squeeze in, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's been around 3 years, I think, since I went. It just hasn't worked out possible to get down there the past few years for various reasons. My sister's wedding, for example, last summer. It's just been kind of a funny few years. Okay, so let's get on with the yarny knitting content. I have 1, 2, 3 finished objects, which are all pairs of socks, and I also have 3 works in progress, one of which is a new cast on that you haven't seen yet. Actually 2 of them might be. Anyway, we'll get to those in a little bit. So works in progress, no, finished objects. It has been a while. I don't do a lot of knitting over the summer months, so I am a little out of practice. Okay, first off, I did finish my husband's socks. If you've been here a while, you'll know that this year I am knitting him a box of socks for Christmas. I made myself a box of socks last year. I'm not knitting quite as many pairs this year as I did last year. It was the year of the sock for sure. So this is the first pair that I have finished for this episode. This is a very large sock, very large pair of socks, because he has a size 10.5 UK feet. I have no idea what that is in any other sizes. The colourways that I've used, the main colourway is West Yorkshire Spinners in the colourway Owl, and the contrast yarn, which I do have quite a bit left of but not enough for another pair of socks for John, and the contrast yarn is Drops Fable in the colourway 300, which is a cool dark brown. Apologies for the lighting in here today. It is very cloudy, and when I put the overhead light on, it just looked very strange on camera. So yes, vanilla socks for John, and I use the same vanilla sock recipe that I do for every single pair of my vanilla socks these days, which is a Turkish cast on toe up, stockinette on the body of the sock, which for John is 60 rows before the gusset. Then I do, how many increases? I can't remember how many increases I do for John. I do a lot of increases on the gusset for John's socks. I then do a Eye of Partridge slip stitch on the heel turn, and I have done a ribbed heel flap for John with a slip stitch ribbed heel flap. Is it classed as a rib if it's a slip stitch? No, it isn't. It's a slip stitch heel flap. I then do 55 rows of stockinette for the ankle and a 2x2 rib with a stretchy bind off. How many increases? I'm going to have to count, because I'm going to take yarn with me when I go south to knit a couple of pair of socks whilst I'm away for John. So I need to count how many increases I've done on these socks so I know how many I need to do on the next pair, because I am completely drawing a blank. This is what happens when you haven't knit in a while. Last year I was knitting so many socks it was on autopilot. This year, because I've took a few weeks, probably a bit longer break from knitting socks, I even had to count how many rows to do on my own socks, and I knit myself nearly 30 pairs last year and I still couldn't remember how many rows to do before the gusset. It's middle age. I'm going to blame middle age. That's what it is. So yes, that's my first finished object, or pair of finished objects. I have another pair of socks from my husband made. Like I said, because it has been a little while since I've recorded, there is a few pairs of socks, but not as many, for example, in the same period of time from the first half of this, well, it's only August, but the first part of this year, I was knitting many more socks, probably 2 pairs of socks a month, minimum. It hasn't really been that over the past few months. In fact, I don't think I started any new pairs in July. These are another pair that were also started in June, like the previous pair, but were only finished off, I think the owl ones were probably finished in June, but these ones, or maybe at the beginning of July, but these ones were finished maybe at the same time, I think, but I just didn't cast any new ones on in July. So these ones, again, the same recipe that I did for the other pair, vanilla socks, and the colourways are Drops Fable for the contrast in the colourway 108, which I think is called Royal Blue on the website. And the main body of the sock is a Serdar sock yarn, which I'm juggling with its label here. It is Serdar Heart, no, it's not Heart and Soul, it's Soul to Soul, which is basically the same as their Heart and Soul. It's almost the exact same label. I'm not sure if it's one name for, I don't know, UK shops, one for European or American, I'm not sure. But Serdar Soul to Soul or Heart and Soul, and it is in the colourway Happy Camper. I bought several of these, I think about 4 different colourways from this range quite a few years ago now. In fact, I'm knitting, one of my works in progress is a pair with a different colourway of the same range from that time. But again, just exactly the same as the previous pair, vanilla socks, all the same numbers and figures and what have you. And these have come out really nice. I wasn't sure how well this blue would match up with the blue in the stripes, but it has worked out really well. Unless you're looking for it, you just kind of assume it's the same shade of blue, which is perfect. So that's the second pair of socks, second finished object. Okay, third and final finished object is a pair of socks for myself, and I'll show you the other one because that one didn't have its ends woven in. Must get around to that. So I did knit myself some socks. I am still knitting for myself, just not as many this year because I have rather a lot of pairs of socks now and I have run out of room in my sock drawer. I'm going to have to commandeer a bigger drawer and shunt all my clothes around to accommodate how many socks I have. But I do so love making them. Okay, so these are for me. These are made the same way as the others, just with different numbers to fit my size of feet. So, one other change, actually thinking about it, when I knit with, and I've mentioned this before, when I knit with commercial sock yarn, my numbers are different to when I knit with indie dyed yarns. Because indie dyed yarns tend to be on the lighter side of a fingering weight, so a little bit thinner than a commercial fingering weight or sock weight yarn. So when I knit commercial yarn like this, I use a 2.25mm needle for the toes, heels and cuffs using magic loop, and I use a 2.25 9-inch circular to knit the body. And I also do 60 stitches around for both me and my husband, because although he has large feet and very high instep and very big heels, he doesn't have overly broad feet, whereas I have broad feet, so our diameter for our feet is the same size of socks. So I do 60 stitches around for a commercial sock yarn. With an indie dyed yarn, I change that up, so I do 64 stitches around because the yarn is thinner, and I use a smaller needle size to make a nice tight fabric. So I use a 2.25mm, the same for the toes, heels and cuffs for magic loop, but when it comes to the body of the sock, I use a 2mm 9-inch circular instead, and just up the stitch count to make the same width of sock or thereabouts as the commercial socks. So for these I have done 64 stitches around instead, and for my feet I have done 60 stitches up to the gusset. If it was a commercial sock yarn for myself I would do 55, and then for the gusset increases I have done 15 gusset increases either side for this yarn, which it would be 14 stitches either side if it was commercial sock yarn, because obviously the stitches are bigger. But other than that, everything's pretty much the same. It's the same kind of recipe, it's just that the numbers are slightly different. So I'm doing more rows, more gusset increases to account for the thinner yarn, and the ankle I just kind of stay the same. So for me that would be a 40 rounds up to the cuff, and then 20 rounds for the cuff of 2x2 rib, which is the same as what I do for the commercial sock yarns, just 20 rounds of 2x2 rib. The exception tends to be if I'm a little bit short on yarn, I can do slightly less rows on the ankle and then just do a longer cuff, like to 25 rows, something like that, if I think I'm not going to get 40 rows for the ankle. I don't tend to do that for John if I can avoid it, because he likes a much longer ankle on his sock than I do. So the yarns that I've used for the toes and heels, I have used opal yarn in the colourway 5181, which is just listed as orange, and it is a cool, very vivid cool orange. And for the body of the sock I have used a yarn by Siobhan's Crafts, and there is her logo, if it will focus. I don't remember what setting I have on my camera today, I didn't check. So Siobhan's Crafts, this like impromptu, randomly decided upon recording. So the colourway is Orange Popping Candy, and it is in her sock base 85% Polworth and 15% nylon, and I really like this base. I have knit 4 pairs in this base now from her, 2 pairs in the colourway Gingerbread House, and this is the second pair I've knit in this colourway. So I used the first half of the cake with white toes and heels, and I've used the rest of it, that's all I have left, with the orange toes and heels this year. I think I did the other pair last year. That's what I tend to like to do with a nice yarn, is try and get 2 pairs of socks out and just do contrast toes and heels to eke out the yarn, and it usually works out quite well. The exception being if I'm making a pair of socks for John, because they are so much bigger and longer that I can't get a second pair of socks out for him anyway, out of a ball of yarn. If I'm using a commercial sock yarn, sometimes I can. Things like the Surdor or the Drops Fable, I probably could eke out a pair of socks for myself and slightly adapt, you know, the length of the ankle and stuff. But the West Yorkshire Spinners, for example, of these don't have as much yardage, the yarn, as normal commercial sock yarn, and that's probably because the base is partly made up of Blueface Leicester, which is probably denser, so by weight you get less yardage, which is also one of the reasons why you can't, and I've mentioned this before as well, where when somebody says, oh, I'm not sure what the thickness of this yarn is, oh, it's got 400 meters, therefore it must be a fingering weight yarn. Not necessarily. It depends upon the fibre it has been spun with, because different sheep fibres have different densities. Usually you can kind of go off that if you're using something like merino, and you're always knitting merino and you kind of know your yardage. But if you suddenly pick up a Blueface Leicester yarn, you may find you have less yardage or more yardage, or if you pick up a Polworth or what have you. All yarn bases can be different yardage based upon the density of the fibre. The yardage on this is actually 400 meters, and hence why I've managed to get 2 pairs of socks out of 100 grams comfortably. But like if I was using West Yorkshire Spinners, I am not sure I would get 2 pairs of socks even for myself out of a ball of West Yorkshire Spinners. So that is all my finished objects for this episode. So we can go on to works in progress now. I have 1 garment, 1 shawl and 1 pair of socks. We'll get the socks out the way first. because I have the sock blocker to hand. This sock I will put on the sock blocker even though it's not quite done, but only because I have only 2 rows left to do on the cuff and then cast off. I should have just finished it last night, but I was getting harassed by a cat, so I did not finish it before bed. This is a pair for myself. Like I said, it is nearly done, and this is a second pair of socks out of this commercial yarn, which is another of the Pseudo Heart and Soul or Soul to Soul. This one is called Country Bumpkin and was bought at the same time as the other yarn. The Contrast Toes and Heels is a West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. Same base, their signature 4-ply, and this is in the colourway Cinnamon Stick, which I really love this colour. I would love to knit a cardigan out of this, or this colour anyway. I'm not sure how I would feel about it. I'm not sure if it would be soft enough for me as a cardigan. I could get away with it, but it might bother me a little wee bit. So anyway, Cinnamon Stick, Country Bumpkin, same recipe as everything else. The only difference being, because it's a commercial stock yarn, is 55 rows up to the gusset and 14 increases either side for the gusset, compared to the Indie Dad yarn, which was more. But yep, these are half done. I have almost finished casting off this sock, and the second sock I'm already doing. The reason being is I can do this whilst reading on the Kindle app on my computer, or even on my Kindle. So I've been working on this, but I didn't want to. I can knit the cuff whilst I'm reading, but I didn't want to, so I put this aside to do whilst watching TV, and I started the second one. But otherwise, these are flying along. I don't think I'm going to take these with me when I go south, because they're so close to finishing. It's not worth taking up space in my packing for a pair of socks that's not going to last. It's not going to take very long to finish. I'll probably leave those for when I come home and take fresh yarn and needles with me, I think. I need to decide that today. I haven't packed to go away. Today is Saturday and I'm going on Monday, and I haven't packed anything. Well, no, that's not true. I've actually packed a few bits, but I haven't packed any clothes yet, or knitting or crafting or anything, so I need to figure that out this weekend, obviously. Okay, 2 more works in progress. Let's start with the one you will have seen if you've been here before, which is my Ori sweater. I have progressed a little bit. I have mentioned before, I do not enjoy knitting this because I'm knitting with a boucle yarn and I am not enjoying it, but I am slowly getting there. So last time I had put the body aside, it's not to its full length, but I'd put it aside to work on the sleeves, and I have finished one sleeve. It's still on the needles because it needs to be, the cuff needs to be folded in on itself and tacked down. I haven't decided if I'm going to do like a 3 needle, like pick up the stitches and do a 3 needle bind off, or whether I'm going to whip stitch it down. So the cuff is currently around 2.5 inches, but it will be folded in on itself and be half that. I have adapted this pattern slightly to use this yarn, so the sleeves are really quite loose and baggy, but I have made decreases, probably more so than the pattern called for, because I started out with very wide sleeves, and I have done a rapid decrease at the cuff to bring them in and them not be too baggy. The pattern itself is one by Audrey Borrego of Yarn Flakes, and it is now currently a free pattern, as all her patterns now are. And on the original pattern they are quite loose cuffs, but I didn't really want that with this yarn. The pattern also has seed stitch down the sleeves and a panel on the front of the body. I've not bothered doing that because they won't show up on the boucle anyway, so I've just knit it plain. But otherwise, pretty much the pattern. Very few changes. I'm really enjoying. I'm looking forward to eventually knitting this in another yarn to the actual pattern. because it is a nice design. I do like her designs. I have a few, I've knit a few, and I have a few more in my library and my favourites. So I just need to cast this sleeve off and then pick up the stitches for the second one. I will knit that sleeve now that I have all my numbers from doing this one, and then whatever yarn I have left over I will put onto the body and make this a nice big oversized cozy sweater. And I will try to use up all of the yarn so I don't have to knit with it ever again. The yarn that I'm using, oh, I'll have to take one out of a bag, a crinkle bag, is Drops Alpaca Boucle Mix. There we go. And it is in the colourway 2020, which I think is just called beige. Beige or light beige, something like that. And the base is a 80% alpaca, 15% wool, 5% polyamide. So this jumper is going to be very cozy and very warm, and I will love it when it's done. Actually, I will pick up and do the v-neck collar as well before I finish the body. I will love it when it's finished, but I just want it finished now. I want it finished because I don't want to knit that yarn anymore. I'll get there. I'll get there when I come back. It's one that I can't knit whilst reading because I have to look at what I'm knitting the whole time. And we haven't watched much TV over the last, well, over the summer. We don't generally watch much TV on an evening in the summer. We've been doing like crafting and listening to audiobooks instead. So I haven't been working on this. But once we get back to TV viewing in the autumn, like when I come back from being south, then I could get that finished finally. Okay, my final work in progress, and that's a bit of a story. Not really a story, but a few weeks ago I had a bit of a health scare, and I decided I wanted to use it all worked out fine, but I decided I want to use up some of my favourite yarns that I had in stash that I hadn't gotten around to using. Stuff like those precious skeins. So I had a look and I decided to cast on a shawl with some yarn that I bought many years ago now from the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. It was the first festival I'd been to, and I didn't have a plan. But I did buy 2 skeins of yarn that I wanted to make into a shawl. They are from a dyer that unfortunately no longer dyes yarn, which is a shame because the colourways were lovely. I've knit another shawl from the same dyer not that long ago actually. Anyway, this yarn is by Old Maiden Ant Yarns, and using 2 colourways, these 2, which are just lovely. We've got this kind of antique brassy kind of a colour here, bronze colour, and this wonderful multicoloured bluey coloured skin. So these are on a 50% merino, 50% silk base. The multicoloured skin is in the colourway Fully Completely, and the bronze one is Midnight Owl. And I fell in love with this skein initially, and I spent ages choosing another one that would work with it but also contrast with it, and I ended up with this one. So this yarn is so soft because it's 50% silk, and it was always destined to be a shawl because it will pill like crazy. It would be terrible as a sweater. It would look gorgeous, but it wouldn't last very long. So I had planned to knit the shawl by, oh, I will have to put the name on the screen. I think it's an Ishnik shawl. Ishnik, I can't remember. I will put the shawl on the screen, which is a triangular shawl that has bands of one colour and a contrast colour, and then it has a cabled border on it. And that was the original plan. It was a gorgeous shawl, but I realised I don't like wearing triangular shawls, and I pulled back my phobia shawl to knit a crescent shawl fairly recently because I just wasn't wearing the triangular shawl. It just doesn't work for my way that I wear shawls. So I end up scrapping the idea to make that shawl with these. So I spent ages figuring out a shawl to knit this with. I had 2 failed attempts. There was a Stephen West shawl I attempted to knit. There was another shawl that I attempted, but there just wasn't enough contrast. The spaces between the colours weren't big enough to show the 2 colours. They just kind of blurred into each other. I think one had garter stitch, and the garter in this yarn just didn't look nice. You lost all the different colours. It just looked one big massive colour, and you couldn't see all the little bits of colour in there, and it bugged me. Oh, I was going to do the Biyagi shawl, another Biyagi shawl, which I will do with some more yarn at some point because I really love my first Biyagi shawl. But the garter stitch didn't look, it wasn't showing this off to its best. So I thought, okay, I need something with stockinette. And then I tried a Stephen West shawl. I think it was either the bubble shawl or mosaic shawl, something like that. Mosaic shawl. Painting bricks shawl. It was the painting bricks shawl, and another lovely shawl, but there was not enough rows, and the gaps, the bricks were too small to really show off the colours in this yarn. So I found another one online on Ravelry eventually. I found one called the Merlot shawl by Elise Dupont, and it is a very pretty shawl. It is free on Ravelry, and it has bands of stockinette interspersed by stripes of eyelets, and then it has a lacy border as well, and it is working up really nice. You can see both colours, which is exactly what I wanted. So let's see which is the best way of showing this. So you can see, if I can get it to turn to the light, the colours are showing up nice in the stockinette. And you can also see the bronze in these stripes, although there's only one so far, the bronzy colour of the eyelets. So I think this is the one. It's perfect. So it will have bronze eyelet stripes, and then the lace work will be done in the bronze as well, which means we won't have a busy coloured yarn trying to work lace and then not show up the lace. The semi-solid will be the lace, and it'll look really, really pretty. I'm really happy with it. I think I might take this actually as one of my knitting projects when I go south, because it's something that's got, it's not challenging at all, it's fairly simple, but it's not just socks. So yes, that is my final work in progress, and that is all the knitting content for today, other than to say I will be at Perth in a couple of weeks time. I hope to see you there. Other life stuff, I'm drawing a blank. I'm tired. It has been a long week. It's been very busy getting ready for going south. I will be going in my new converted little camper van. I have been recording that over on my other channel, although I do have a couple more videos that need editing to go up on that because the van is finished. So it's been getting the prep work done to take that away with me. I did do a little test run, an overnighter at my local beach to iron out the kinks. So we have made some little tweaks and what have you, and I've built a little compost toilet, and I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I'm really nervous as well. I read in a book that I'm reading the other day, I was second guessing myself on going in my van, because although I did drive on the mainland down to my sister's wedding near Inverness last summer, I will be going further south. Obviously I'm going all the way down to Perth, and although I learnt to drive down in Derbyshire before I moved to Orkney, it has been a number of years since I've had to drive on like in like normal traffic rather than island traffic, so I'm a little nervous. But I did read in one of my in a book I'm reading at the moment, a character had said, "Be careful but be brave," and I'm trying to take that to heart. So it's been a little nerve-wracking. It's still a little nerve-wracking, and I've had a lot to do to get ready to take my first proper expedition in the van. I will be doing other camping as well in between family and the Yarn Festival. So yeah, that is the big life updatey stuff coming, that is happening at the moment. I'm hoping that I remember to record this first trip away that I can post on the other channel. Hopefully I'll like get my head in gear and I'll be alright once I get going. I will likely record whilst I'm at Perth. I will do a little Perth vlog for the channel, for this channel, but the camping vlog will be on the other one. Okay, what else? I don't think there is anything else to report. I did set up another, I was going to do a lot of recording of gardening and stuff in this year and put it on my homestead channel. That didn't happen, apologies. Come the autumn, because you know what I usually do, like Vlogtober, there'll be lots to do, but there's been van stuff up until now. But actually that's done, now I can focus on another thing. I can only focus on one obsession at a time. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there because I'm just starting to waffle now. I will see, if I don't see you at the Yarn Festival, then I will speak to you when I come back and record my kind of rundown on what I've purchased whilst I'm there. And yeah, so I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you for watching all the way at the end, and yeah, bye bye.